Hi, I'm very happy to having present for here. So I really enjoy the reception. I really enjoy the music, Star Wars. So I must talk. May the force be with you. So actually, we arrived the last night at 10 p.m. About 10 p.m. It was the about 14 hours flight. It was arduous, challenging, but I'm very happy because I can share our idea with you, and I will great opportunity to discuss about this topic with you. So we didn't participate the ice breaking last night, so I should briefly introduce my team members. So she is Hwang, a cadet officer, and he is Colonel Kim. Actually, she will present this topic, and Colonel Kim will briefly provide the main topic and most important implication for this work. Kim.
It's my great honor to be here today. So I'll briefly summarize our presentation. Our presentation is about the T3R, tooth to tail ratio. It is often said that the military organization have evolved into the one with short tooth and long tails. And usually we, including South Korea, say we need more strong tooth, but rarely pay attention to the cost of maintaining long tails. We are going to talk about how to strike balance between combat effectiveness by introducing the strong unmanned combat system while considering the cost of keep the strong maintenance and support the system.
Now let's move on to our presentation about our study, relationship between automation levels and the combat effectivenesses. The presentation will be structured as follows. First, I will outline the background of our study and introduce the central research questions. And then I will introduce the necessity of battle automation and simulations. Then I will explain our research design methodology, present the simulation results, which will be most interesting part of our presentation, and then conclude with the key findings and the implications of our study. South Korea is undergoing a demographic transformation, posing significant challenges to the mobilization of the military personnel necessary for the national defense. As of 2024, the total fertility rate stands at 0.63, which poses a significant population decline. Also, South Korea is undergoing a low birth rate and superaging simultaneously. Accordingly, the necessity for restructuring the military structure has emerged. When assessing the balance of military manpower on the Korean peninsula, South Korea has about 500,000, whereas North Korea has 1.28 million. So the manpower ratio between two countries is about 1 to 2.5 in favor of the North Korea. So given this current demographic challenges of South Korea and the persistent threat posed by North Korea, the South Korean armed forces have shown an increased interest in the deployment of the UCS. Therefore, our central research question was whether the UCS can replace the human combatants in the battle situation. UCS can reduce risk to human life, and it has higher lethality and mobility compared to the human combatants. However, it demands high maintenance, and also it is vulnerable to the system failure. Therefore, we employed a war simulation model that accounts for the interactions among human combatants, UCS units, and maintenance personnel within a constrained operational system. This study applies an agent-based model, which is originally developed from the field of ecology to the war simulations. Among the various frameworks of ABM, this study adopts a model rooted in the predator predynamic model, which provides a mechanism for assessing the balance and the state of the structure of two opposing groups based on the concept of population dynamics. Each group consists of three distinct types of agents: machine representing the UCS, human combatant, and the human maintenance, which is responsible for the repair and the upkeep for the machine. When we look at the hierarchy, the machine units at the top of the hierarchy can attack all the enemy units without any restriction. The human combatants at the intermediate level of the hierarchy can kill enemy except for the opposing machine units. The human maintenance at the lowest tier of this hierarchy does not directly participate in the combat situation, but still has responsible for the upkeep and restoring the machine units. Our study has some assumption while running the simulations. We assume the isolated battlefield, and we fixed as initial force capacity for each groups. Also, we assume that combat occurs in a structured and periodic manner until an agent population of group reaches 0, which is considered the defeated. C, representing the capacity of each group, is determined by the aggregation number of the 3 units. The equation 3 represents the rate of the change in the number of machine units over the time at which the parameter alpha represents the rate of machine units disabled or destroyed during the combat. As depicted in the figure 1, machine units can only be reintroduced into the battle by the supporting of human maintenance. So with a parameter beta representing the redeployment of the machine units. Equation 4 describes the evolution of human combatants over the time. The first term in equation 4 accounts for human combatants' attrition due to the attacks of opposite machine units, where the parameter gamma denotes the lethality rate of machine against the human combatant. The second term epsilon represents the proportion of human combatant casualties and injuries resulting from this confrontation. Also, the parameter zeta captures the redeployment rate of human combatants, which is influenced by the medical and the recovery conditions. Equation 5 characterizes the temporal variation in human maintenance. Human maintenance attrition is solely determined by the prediction from the attacks of machine units and the human combatant units. So the parameter eta and zeta respectively represent the lethality rate of machine and human combatants against the human maintenance. And the term at the back of each equation represent the carrying capacity of each agent. Without the constraint, the number of each agent will grow endlessly, so it is unrealistic for the combat scenario. K1 represents the initial value of human maintenance, so it can be interpreted as a carrying capacity for equation 5 and equation 3 based on the concept of the number of machine units are regulated by the human maintenance. Also, K2 represents the initial value of a human combatant, so it can be used to express the carrying capacity for the equation 4. Now let's move on to our simulation results. The first simulation was conducted under a condition which most closely resembling the current situation in the Korean peninsula, where the North Korea had more human combatants. By looking at this graph, South Korea shows a sharp decline in the total capacity, and it starts to increase from the 5th engagement, and it increases to the equilibrium after the 130th battle. In the contrast, in the case of North Korea, it shows a decline rapidly from the beginning, but it shows a brief recovery, but soon reaches 0 in the 175th engagement. This simulation result shows the negative effect of human combatants. So contrary to our prediction that human combatants will effectively contribute for winning the war, more human soldiers did not guarantee the victory in these simulations. So we analyzed a little deeper. This graph shows that each unit counts in the first simulation. South Korea shows a rapid decrease of human combatants and human maintenance, but the machine unit shows initial decline, but it soon leads to the subsequent increases. In the case of North Korea, human combatants and human maintenance show the gradual decrease, and machine units indicate the rapid decrease. It can be interpreted that as a large number of human combatants increase of the cost of maintaining them. Eventually, due to the rising costs within the limited carrying capacity, the defeat of the war happened. In this simulation, the Army A, South Korea, wins, but as you have seen in the previous graph, it takes until 175th engagement for this to happen, so resulting in a relatively prolonged duration of the war. The second simulation represents the result under condition where South Korea strengthened its UCS. As depicted in the graph, South Korea experienced a sharp initial decline in the total capacity during the early stage of the conflict. However, its capacity begins to recover gradually. In contrast, North Korea shows a steady decline from the beginning and reaches zero after the 25th engagement. This simulation highlights the strategic advantage of machine-dominant force structure in the constrained combat scenarios. It is evident that increasing of the machine units leads to a significantly faster and more decisive victory for the South Korea. The third simulation was presented under the condition where South Korea strengthened its human capacity and both human combatants. South Korea experiences a sharp decline in the total capacity, followed by a gradual reduction in the rate of decline, and converges zero by the 200th battle. In contrast, North Korea undergoes a rapid decrease in the onset and starts to recover and even surpasses South Korea by the 100th engagements. This result of the simulation indicates that defeat of South Korea was due to the adoption of human-intensive strategy without the UCS reinforcements. Looking at this detailed graph for the simulation 3, we can observe that in the case of South Korea, machine and human combatants deplete relatively quickly. The shortage of machine units wasted the human capacity, and it ultimately leads to the defeat under the limited carrying capacity. In contrast, for the North Korea, there is a sharp initial decline, but both human combatants and machine units gradually recover, except for the sharp decline in the human maintenance. Ultimately, North Korea gets the victory despite the lower initial capacity. Simulation 4 presents the result when South Korea strengthened both the UCS and human combatants. South Korea shows high initial machine units and swift victory in a relatively fast period. For the North Korea, due to the fewer numbers of machine units, its capacity collapsed by the 15th battle. This result suggests the positive effect of UCS reinforcement with the balanced human forces. To conclude, the simulation results can be summarized as follows. In scenario 1, which reflects the current situation, where the North Korea possesses the larger human forces, South Korea ultimately achieved the victory. However, the war was prolonged due to the cost-related issues. In scenario 2, where South Korea was assumed to have increased its machine units, a faster and decisive victory was achieved for the South Korea. In scenario 3, where increases in human combatants and human maintenance were assumed for South Korea, the relative shortage of machine units lead to the wasting of the human maintenance, eventually resulting in North Korea's eventual victory after a prolonged conflict. Finally, scenario 4 demonstrated that when South Korea increased both UCS and human combatants, it was able to secure a swift victory in the war. Our research carries profound implications for the states grappling with the conscription shortage due to the dramatic population decline. First, enhancing the human-related forces alone did not guarantee the victory. As shown in scenarios 1 and 3, the sides with greater total capacity still suffers the defeat. This suggests that despite their larger total capacity, the high costs associated with maintaining human forces may contribute to the failure in the combat. Moreover, given that personal burden matters, Expanding the human combatant and human maintenance must consider the carrying capacity limits. Second, augmenting the human combatant power alongside with the UCS deployment leads to significantly shorter war durations. This indicates that rather than substituting humans with UCS, a more effective strategy is to integrate and enhance both force types simultaneously. Based on these findings, we can drive the optimal force structure for the Republic of Korea. Integrating UCS and human combatants can lead to the shorter war as you have seen in scenarios 2 and 4, which means Korean army can achieve faster and decisive victory relative to the North Korea. Therefore, for the best outcome, the combined deployment of humans and UCS seems necessary for the South Korea when facing the conflict with the North Korea in the Korean Peninsula. Thank you for your attention.